US, NATO step up threats against Russia, turning Black Sea region into a powder keg. On Tuesday, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg insisted that NATO would decide on Ukraine's NATO membership and that Ukraine, which has been pushing for accelerated admission, had a right to apply for membership. He denounced Russia for allegedly moving its troops toward the Ukrainian border, calling the move unjustified, unexplained and deeply concerning. Both Stoltenberg and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba in Brussels, who urged that Ukraine be admitted to NATO. A day before, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky insisted that NATO admit Ukraine as soon as possible, even at the risk of an escalation of the conflict with Russia. Later on Tuesday, U.S. President Joe Biden spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin, again stressing U.S. support for Ukraine. He also proposed a summit in the coming months to discuss U.S.-Russia relations and urged Russia to de-escalate the situation. In reality, it is NATO and Ukraine that have been aggressively escalating tensions in the region. Immediately underlying the current flare-up of conflict was the adoption of a strategy to retake Crimea by the Zelensky government, and open discussions of a Ukrainian offensive in East Ukraine. Both were tantamount to declaring that Ukraine was preparing for all-out war with Russia. The U.S. is now deploying 2 warships to the Black Sea through Turkish Straits, starting April 14. According to Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, NATO has amassed 40,000 troops and 15,000 items of military equipment along Russia's borders, above all in the Black Sea region and the Baltics. On Tuesday, NATO launched Locked Shields 2021, which has been described as the largest cyber war exercise in the world. Focused in the Baltics, it involves NATO practicing how to protect civilian and military infrastructure, such as water treatment and energy facilities, in case of international conflict. The actions by NATO, above all the threats of Ukrainian NATO membership, are extraordinarily reckless provocations, directly posing the risk of war between nuclear-armed Russia and the NATO powers. Russia has long warned that NATO membership of Ukraine would cross a red line. Since the Stalinist dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, NATO, despite promises to the contrary, has expanded ever closer to Russia's borders, including Poland, Romania, Bulgaria and the Baltic states. It was also as part of the encirclement of Russia that the US and Germany organized 2 coups in Ukraine, in 2004 and 2014. Precisely because of the intersection of various geopolitical conflicts and interests, the crisis in the Black Sea region has the potential to trigger a catastrophic regional, and even global war. Already, the conflict has drawn in Turkey, Poland, and Belarus. 3 decades after the restoration of capitalism, living standards of the working class everywhere have been decimated, and endless wars by U.S. imperialism have devastated much of North Africa and the Middle East. The former Soviet Union itself has been turned into a geopolitical powder keg. The working class has no interest in the catastrophic wars that are being prepared. Already, hospitals across the region are overwhelmed and thousands are dying every day from COVID-19 because of the criminal response of the ruling class to the pandemic. In the US, more people have died from the pandemic than in both world wars combined. In Ukraine itself there is enormous popular hostility to any continuation, let alone expansion, of the conflict with Russia. However, the opposition to imperialist war within the international working class must be armed with a political program and leadership.